Jonathan Jackson is a multifaceted artist who tells stories through music, film, and the written word. He has played numerous roles in TV and films, including General Hospital, which brought him 5 Emmy Awards, Tuck Everlasting, Insomnia, and the recent musical drama series Nashville. He has shared the screen with Michelle Pfeiffer, Al Pacino, William Hurt, Cillian Murphy, and Sir Ben Kingsley. Jonathan's other abiding passion has been his music, which has been featured in a number of his movies. He is the lead singer and guitarist with American indie rock band Enni Red.
Thank you, Jonathan, for meeting me today, and hopefully we will tell something interesting for both your and our fans. I would like to start our conversation from a question. So I know that you're a long-time fan of Russian writer Dostoevsky, and I wonder, what do you think about his works in terms of their relevance to the modern world? I never hide it. I think that he's very international and modern writer, and not just relevant to 19th century Russia. But what are your thoughts?
Well, my first thought is I feel like Dostoevsky's writings are timeless in the sense of his understanding of human nature. For me, he's a genius at expressing and depicting the paradoxes and complex desires and passions that human beings go through. And I don't think that has really changed much over the centuries. So in terms of the way that he deals with the human heart and the human mind and relationships, I feel like it's timeless. Historically speaking, because, Dostoevsky wrote, as far as I know, all of his works were set in the time he was living in. You would know more than me, but as far as I know, that's the case. And so he was writing within a particular time and a particular culture and part of the world. But there are similarities that we have in our day and age in terms of political unrest and just a lot of the philosophies that he was wrestling with before his time. Before it became very apparent. He was very prophetic in that sense. But I think that those ideas and those feelings are still happening today. I might need to put her out, or she's going to become a guest. She's going to become a guest in our discussions. She's a Dostoevsky fan too, so all are welcome.
Is she eating his books?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If the revolution in Russia took place, I don't know how many years after Dostoevsky's death.
30 years later.
30 years later, yeah. So yeah, it's not very far, and we can only guess what the world is going to be like in 30 years. For us, there's a lot of political unrest globally and a lot of potential situations going on. So I think his warnings and cautions and insights are more or maybe just as relevant now as they were at the time when he was writing.
What about social issues, like not only political, but in terms of what he was writing about society and people?
I don't know. I'd have to think about that a little bit more. I mean, the social issues in our day and age have been so politicized that it's difficult for people to have fruitful discussions, it seems. I'm more fascinated with Dostoevsky's works, again, with his social issues only in how they relate to the human being, not for the sake of politics. I don't feel like Dostoevsky ever wrote about politics for the sake of politics.
Yeah.
I think that he only wrote about politics when he saw certain ideologies really crossing the line in a way that would be, in his mind, frighteningly damaging to his country and to people's spirit and to their freedoms and all these kinds of things. So yeah, he certainly spoke very intensely, I think, about certain political ideologies, and I find that very relevant in our day and age. Shockingly so in some ways, because of what we lived through in the 20th century. You know, I wouldn't have thought that you know, a lot of the, I think, threats of more collectivist, totalitarian ideologies, I would not have thought 20 years ago that they would be as prevalent and as strong as they are, just because of the, you know, atrocities of the 20th century. But they're still here with us, you know, big time. And you know, Dostoevsky spoke very profoundly around these issues, and not in a modern, you know, political party ideological bubble. I think he was writing from a deep philosophical and spiritual place, and that's what, you know, inspires me about his writings.
What kind of people would you recommend nowadays to read more of Dostoevsky's works? Anyone
who is willing to put in the time. You know, I think that's one of the things that's harder and harder in our day and age is for people to quiet the distractions that we all have, the incredible amount of information that is constantly coming at us. And, you know, we're getting more and more accustomed to these tiny little sound bites of information, and it's hard to sustain a long form thought. And, you know, I actually love reading, and I read a lot, but I don't read a lot of fiction for whatever reason. I love reading history and biographies, you know, poetry, theology, stuff like that. But fiction I have a hard time with. And so Dostoevsky is one of the few writers that has been able to draw me in so much that I have to... I want to put in the work and the effort to read his stuff. So I would just say I've said this before, actually, Anna, you know, I would say anyone who's an artist should read Dostoevsky. And it doesn't matter what kind of art, you know, that they're involved in. Every actor or actress should read Dostoevsky's novels. Every director should read his novels because, again, he is one of the most brilliant and gifted artists and writers ever at expressing the nuance and paradoxes of the human condition and human behavior. And for me as an actor, I started reading his novels when I was 15 or 16, and it informed my approach to acting tremendously. I found more inspiration and insight in his novels about what it means to be an actor and to approach a character and to understand these, you know, again, these complex realities that I would say anyone who's an artist should definitely read at least some of his, you know, some of his major works.
Coming a little bit closer to our main topic, when you first, I don't know, maybe second time, I don't know how many times you've read Crime and Punishment overall. So when you read the novel, what did you think about the character of Sonia?
Again, one of the things that I love about his works is the paradoxes that are always present. And so, you know, for me, she was at once someone that your heart goes out to in such incredible compassion, and yet she's also a Christ-like figure. And And so someone who is both a victim and a savior simultaneously is incredibly fascinating. And so you find these moments of light in his stories, and they sometimes can come from the most unexpected places. But that's really who Sonia was to me. She was sort of the place where goodness and light was able to shine in a pretty serious darkness.
I remember I first time talked with you about the idea of the short film Transgressing more than a year ago, when it was just an idea. And a couple of months ago, you kindly agreed to read the current draft of the screenplay, which is the fourth one, but not the last yet. Can you share any thoughts you had while reading the script, and how do you think Dostoevsky's story fitted into a modern British world? And overall, what do you think about it?
Well, I remember the initial conversation that we had in London about it, which was very interesting. And the idea of taking Sonia's story and focusing in on that as its own, making her the protagonist and putting it in a modern setting was very fascinating. And, from the initial idea to the more recent draft that I've read, I felt like it really came alive. And it was kind of, for me, it was a visceral experience reading the script, just because of the harrowing situation and circumstance that she's put in. And it is completely relevant to today's world. This is, so it's an interesting juxtaposition to take, something from a novel, a fictional story from so long ago, and bring it into the modern world. And yet that fictional story, there are so many true stories where things like this are occurring. So, it's a powerful thing to bring that story into the days we're living in, and all of the emotional and human and spiritual and psychological, drama of the original story is still relevant, but it's in a setting that is all too familiar to us nowadays.
What do you think overall about my bold decision of making Sonia protagonist of her own story?
I think it is a bold decision. I think it's creative. I remember reading something. I don't remember where I read it. It was in one of Dostoevsky's letters, I think. And maybe you mentioned it as well in the discussion that we were having in London. But he was very... someone had written to him about turning one of his books into a play. And, he gave his blessing, so to speak, but said, don't stick too closely to the novel, because a play is a different medium. It's a different artistic medium than a novel. And I thought that just had such wisdom and generosity of spirit, just to understand that, over the years, I've worked in a lot of different artistic mediums, whether it's, filming a soap opera, to feature films, to primetime television, to theater, short films, writing mini-series length screenplays, feature films, and novels, all that kind of stuff. And it's every medium is its own reality. And I just thought it was brilliant that Dostoevsky had that instinct. So I think you're right in line with where he was coming from, which is, if you're going to, take something from the novel and do something with it and put it into a film, a feature film or a short film, keep the essence but don't stay too closely, because otherwise you're going to be restricted too much. And so again, there's a paradox of being faithful to something, but also having the freedom to turn it into what it's meant to be.
Jonathan, you such beautifully put all my thoughts into words because I'm exactly was trying, at least. I don't know how great I was in this, but I was trying to follow this, like trying to have the essence of the character from what Dostoevsky created, of the idea of the character, and maybe some like events which are happening with her, but at the same time trying to be creative in this way of putting her into different country, into different time, and many actual real life situations happening around us helped me to put her nowadays, because such characters as Sonia, I think, could exist now.
Oh yeah, yes, absolutely.
Okay, then coming now to the final moment of why we're talking with you about all of this, and want to reveal something to people looking at us now. This is the fact that you have kindly agreed to become somehow a part of this project, Transgressing. Can you please tell more to your and our followers what exactly you're going to do and how you will be the part?
I was very grateful to be able to be involved in it. So, as we already mentioned, you and I had been discussing the project kind of from the very beginning. So I was just as a fellow, artist, I was just, enjoying hearing about the development of the project for you. And then as we were discussing things, it came up at some point of whether or not there was any music that I could potentially participate in for the project. And there is a particular song that I've actually had for many, many, many years. It's a very personal song for me, and it's never been released before. And it's called "You Didn't Win," and so I sent that to you, and I said have a think about it and see if you feel like this would fit, to kind of, possibly as an end credit song or something like that, and it seemed to connect.
I absolutely loved it. So did the director. So
yeah, so I was very, I was blessed to hear that, because, like I said, it's a very personal song. It is a hopeful and redemptive song, but it's heavy, and it's, it has. I always wanted, I wanted it to be connected to something that had depth and where I felt like the intent and the prayer, the cry of the song, however you want to say it, finds some kind of home or a voice that connects it to something larger than itself as well, which I feel like this story does. So I was very grateful for that.
Well, we are even more grateful for you agreeing to become the part of this project, which is now in a very long development because of the situation which is happening. But everything we can do online, we are doing now to make the best possible film we can. And maybe this film can touch some of the audience's hearts, because I think this is a very heartbreaking story, but with some hope.
That's right. There's an ancient sort of proverb where it says that every delay is for our benefit. And I think we're all certainly being tested when it comes to that in these times, because, everything is being delayed right now. So, maybe in many ways that we can't comprehend, it's for our benefit. But yeah, it's, I mean, one of the most comforting things for me is that we're all going through it together. I mean, that's something that is certainly comforting. I mean, no matter who I call or connect with, pretty much wherever they are in the world, we're all going through it together. So there's something comforting in that.
Thank you again for talking with me, and we'll keep our fans updated with what's going on with the film and with the song.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It's great to see you.